Good morning, everybody. It's time for the Global Online Ministry Alliance, and this is Quantum Spirituality, and I am Derek Day. And trying something out today. You'll notice that there's a green screen in the background. We're going to substantially increase the quality of our video production going forward. We've got some really interesting things coming up. And so I'm really excited about that. And as always, the Global Online Ministry Alliance is a group of awesome teachers that bring good news to the world through the magic of the internet. And we start off on Sundays with my friend and brother Lynn Bennett Jr., followed occasionally by Kyle Butler, and then Dr. Catherine Toon, then myself, and then Michael Porter. Also on Wednesdays, we have Grounds and Grace with Mike Zinker, and we have Another Cup with Keith Giles on Thursdays, or as Keith kind of, feels it. So, excuse me, I'm kind of like dealing with my voice today, but I'm going to work through that. Also, I'm part of the 3 Core Live, and 3 Core Live is another group of teachers, and we have a little bit of overlap in the speaker category, teacher category. But we start off on Mondays with Bill Thrasher, on Tuesdays with Table Talk with Michelle Brown and Tammy Wilson, and Wednesdays Dr. Catherine Toon is back, and Thursdays we anxiously await a Kyle sighting. Then on Friday we have Freeology Friday, which I do, and it's Freeology, it's freedom from theology or free theology. Basically I'm on the mindset where I just say screw theology, not really even feeling it anymore. I think that it's a waste of time, but that's me. Your mileage may vary. So also we're broadcasting live on Instagram too, and I want to thank all of my grammars for joining in too. So good to see you guys. And I think that pretty much does the lineup. But before I get started, I want to give a quick shout out. June 5th through the 7th, we are going to be doing NAMAD 2020. It is a live virtual workshop / seminar / conference. And we have some tremendous speakers. We have Kyle Butler, we have Keith Giles, we have Katie Valentine, we have PK Langley, we have Carl and Laura Forehand, we have Cody and Elaine Johnston, we have Todd Vick and Bill Thrasher. And you don't want to miss this. I'm going to tell you, if you want to watch something where you can learn something that will help you get past religion, listen. So many people like to use the term lost. I'm going to tell you, for me, I have refrained from using that term because nobody's lost. Because see, if God is who God is, and God is truly ubiquitous, in other words, he's omnipresent or she's everywhere, that means that there is nowhere that you can go where God doesn't know where you are. Therefore, you're not lost. You may not know where you are, and that's okay. Because the whole point of NAMAD 2020 is to remind you is that everyone who wanders is not lost. In Australia, they have this thing called the walkabout. The walkabout is like you're just going out, you're wandering. You're exploring, you're hiking. Okay, so I want you guys to know that some of you may not really be sure where you are faith-wise, what you believe and how you feel, all of these things, but guess what? You're not lost. Okay, you're not. And if you check out NAMAD 2020, you will understand not only why you're not lost, but you'll help find your tribe. That's really cool stuff. So that's pretty much the introductions. And since I'm doing this on both Instagram and on Facebook, I'm not going to do the usual shout outs that I do on Fridays because, it would be kind of difficult. Like if I reach, for this device or that device, it gets kind of weird, eh? So we're not going to do that. We're gonna stick with just going straight to today's lesson. And I've said that this is quantum spirituality, and quantum spirituality, I picked that term because I'm really into and feeling quantum physics at this point in my life, because I really believe that quantum physics does just as good a job of explaining the spiritual as spirituality does a good job of explaining the scientific. In other words, where I am in my current headspace, these two are the same thing, okay? And where we kind of get off the rails is that we don't examine things at their most finite level. We look at things in a very macro sense, and that is the big picture. And we're taught by religion that there are certain things that you just won't understand, that you can't understand. You're not God. You can't understand. Well, listen, I get that. There are certain things that you can't understand. There are certain things in the natural that you don't understand. Some people, if you ask people, how does an X-ray work or an MRI? How does something as esoteric as dry cleaning work? People can't tell you. You're just not going to know everything. That's just the nature of life. And if you embrace that, embrace the not knowing, you will really enjoy this journey, because that's what life is. It's a journey, right? So we want to embrace the not knowing, but to observe and to categorize that which we can observe. And here's the interesting thing about quantum physics is that when you observe a quantum particle, the mere fact that you are observing it, that you are watching it, that you are listening to it, or whatever it is, whatever your measurement of observation is, you are influencing what you're observing. And that is powerful, because if you get that, you'll understand the power of you. And in understanding the power of you, you will understand the power of God, which is in turn understanding the power of love. And this is the power that hangs everything. In love, we live and move and have our being. Okay? Man, I gotta remember that, because I gotta put that in my nomad talk. So anyway, today, I want to talk about time. Time. What is time? And time, in the simplest sense, is just how we measure our spatial relationships. How we measure, time is related to distance, time is related to space, time is related, and all of these things, and listen, time in the natural is a finite resource. In fact, in the natural, time is the singular most precious resource. It's not silver, it's not gold, it's not diamonds, it's not rubies, it's not Bitcoin, it's not dollars, it's not pounds, it's not euros. Time. And let me say this about time, because unless you work hourly, or you are a consultant or something like that, where you are billing by the hour, most people don't really have a clue as to what their time is worth. As a matter of fact, if you're only measuring it by dollars, you really don't understand what your time is worth. It's like, if you want to understand the value of 1/100th of a second, ask an Olympic sprinter. If you want to know the value of a minute, ask a mother in labor. If you want to know the value of a millisecond, ask a particle physicist. I mean, in other words, time has different values to different people. But there's one common denominator about time, is that whatever time I use, once I use it, it's gone. It's gone. It can never be reclaimed. You know, and people will talk about these things like redeeming the time and all of that. You can't redeem time. You might be able to make value of a lesson that learned and what you think was time lost, but that time is gone. You'll never be 13 again. I mean, once 13 is gone, once 30 is gone, once 50 is gone, it's gone. Okay? So time then is really the measurement of finite life. But we have to understand that we are spiritual beings. And spirit does not have time. In other words, we are infinite beings with an infinite timeline. You know, if you think back to creation, in the biblical account of creation, it says that in the beginning God created everything, and then she created mankind and created us in the image and the likeness of him, and then gave us dominion. But it was like in the beginning we were created. Now, how old is the earth? I mean, you know, if you ask a creationist, they'll say 6,000 odd years. If you ask a scientist, they'll say 60 billion years, right? And both of them, I think, are right because the measurement of time, the understanding of time is different. But from the beginning, we were with God. We were with God. From the very beginning, we were with God. Whenever time began to be a thing, we were with God. Now, here's the interesting thing about this, because people will say, well, you gotta live right, you gotta live holy, you gotta do this, you gotta do that, so that you can go to heaven and be with the Lord forever. Well, let me tell you this. I don't believe that, because here's the thing. For those of you who are parents, you'll get this. You'll get this because I had an incident, I don't know, about 8 years ago, where my son Anthony threw a rock through somebody's sliding glass door. Now, this was an expensive adventure for us. And the thing is that I don't hold this against him. Now, I only remember it because I have a really good memory. I remember things, and, you know, my family, they could tell you that. But I don't hold this against him. That was a moment in his life. Now, 8 years ago, he was 6 years old and, just, really kind of getting a handle on the use of his limbs and all of that. And now he's 14 and he's pretty well baked. He is who he is. It would be unfair for me to hold him accountable for that point in time. That point in time is come and gone. It will never come again. And he was, we back in those days, I was into corporal punishment. So literally he got his ass whooped about that. I'm not so much anymore. As a matter of fact, the kids haven't had any corporal punishment in, 7 years now. But the thing is I don't hold that against them. And so if we don't hold that against our kids, why then would God hold something that we did, however heinous or reprehensible we may think it is? Why would he hold it against us for eternity? Because, see, we were with him from eternity past until the point in time that we came into this world through our mother's womb. And then when we complete this course that we call life, when we end the ride, the roller coaster stops and we get off the ride, where do we go? We go back to where we came from. And people, you know, Mike Williams, my buddy, he runs Aces High Studio, and he does a lot of video production for a lot of really famous people. Mike had said this. He said that people don't have a problem with Hitler going to heaven. That's not their beef. Their beef is with their cousin Denise, who stabbed them in the back 30 years ago, because they just can't believe that somehow Denise would make it into heaven. She shouldn't make it into heaven because she did me dirty. Do you see how that works? People don't really care about the most heinous and reprehensible of criminals. They don't care about whether Charles Manson is going to heaven or not, or whether Adolf Hitler, or whether King Leopold, or, you know, whomever. They don't really, honestly, they really don't give a rip about those people going to heaven. What they're concerned about are the people who did them dirty. Those are the people that they have an issue with going to heaven. But all energy, once it leaves its source, ultimately returns to its source. You know, this is why the Bible could say that God said that his word will not go forth from him and return void, but it will accomplish everything that it's set out to do. What are words? Energy. This energy goes out, it does what it does, and then it returns to its source. And that's it. And that's how you can say what goes around comes around. That if you say, you know, you say something dirty, you do something dirty, it comes back to you. That's how it works. So time is a construct by which we measure our journey through this adventure we call life. And it is finite in this finite space. You get what you get, and you don't get any more. Nobody gets more time than anyone else. You know, I know people will talk about Hezekiah and all that, but, you know, Hezekiah didn't really get any extra time. all Hezekiah got was time. Do you see that? So what we do with time is important, but one of the things that I want to give you some encouragement about, because some people have been in tough relationships. Some people have been in bad business deals. Some people went through an educational path that really wasn't what they think that they should have been doing. And so what happens is that we begin to get this idea that maybe I've wasted time. But here's the good news. There's no such thing as wasted time. Even if you don't, I used to say time isn't wasted if you learn from the experience, but I'm going to take that a step further. Even if you don't learn, even if you repeat and repeat and repeat the same thing, it's still not a waste. Because that time worked perhaps to someone else's benefit. Perhaps work to help someone else, or perhaps help another learn a lesson. So the time is not wasted. The time is simply the time. But once that second is over, you can't get it back. You know, I can go, I'm a big guy. So if I were to pick another big guy and say, hey, can I borrow your jacket? I can borrow the jacket and I can return it. Or I could ask one of you and say, hey, can you lend me $100? And at the appointed time that we agree upon, I return the $100 to you. Okay? So these are the things that, the finite objects you can return. But time, even though it is finite in the finite realm, you can't return time. Once I consume a second of my time or yours, I can't get it back. If I say to you, can you give me a few seconds, a few minutes, an hour of your time? I must, if I'm going to be a good steward, I must manage that time well. I must give you the maximum value for the time that we've agreed to consume. Because once it's gone, it's gone. Can't give it back to you. Okay? And here's the other thing, is that love is the best governor of time. Because what you'll find is that when you are operating in love, you'll find that there are less instances where you believe your time was wasted. When you operate in love, it's funny how when we are in our most loving frames of mind, when we are in our most loving attitudes, when we are doing the most loving things, it seems like time just whisks on by. It's amazing. Time just, we have no concept of it. You ever heard the term time flies when you're having fun? That is absolute truth. Now the linear construct of time doesn't change, but how we perceive it absolutely does. And so what I'm getting at here is that some people look at things like for example, my wife is not a big fan of social media. She's not. And I don't knock that. That's her. But I believe that all of the relationships that I've built through social media, the things that I've learned through social media, matter of fact, I can honestly say that without the help of some really key people that I met on social media, I would not have advanced to where I am spiritually or mentally. So for some people, this may be a waste of time. You might think, hey, there are more productive things that I could do with my time. And that may be true for you. But it's not a universal truth. See the difference? It's a big difference. So what I want to say to you is time keeps on slipping into the future, to quote Steve Miller. Time keeps slipping into the future, and time stands still for no one. And even though we may have the best plans of how we think our life should go and how we think our time should be spent, things happen. And what I want to say to you is, don't get upset. Keep on doing what it is that's in your heart. Because if you're doing what is in your heart, and if you're doing what's in your heart and it's based and rooted and grounded in love, it will never be a waste of time. And one thing I want to put out there too is that time is not a commodity. It's an investment. And there's a return on your investment. And, sometimes you will invest time and nothing will happen. It'll just be, que sera, sera. Sometimes you'll invest time and something negative may happen. And sometimes you'll invest time and something positive will happen. The good news is that even if your time takes a dip, always remember that a setback is just a setup for a comeback. Don't sweat it. Don't sweat it. Pick up where you left off. Get up from where you fell down and keep moving. And if you find that your fall was caused because of a lack of love, then go back to where you fell and pick yourself up. It's not the one who falls down that is defeated, but the one who stays down. And at the end of the day, remember, it's not your birth date that counts, and it's not your death day that counts. It's what's in the dash. What happened in between your physical beginning and your physical end. But also remember, too, that you're spiritual, and that whatever it is that you say and that you do, that there is an eternal component to it. So think of yourself as spiritual. Keep moving ahead. Remember that the time is only finite in the physical, but make the most of it. And remember that, and here's the thing, don't beat yourself up if for some reason you believe you didn't. You believe you missed it, no big deal. Just keep moving. And that's what I have. Real simple, really straightforward. And again, just like we were talking about quantum physics, that when you observe, it changes things. When you observe things in time, your observation, just the mere fact that you observe, changes things. So, if you have any desire to connect with me, you can do so on my webpage at www.derekday.com and go to the contact tab or the contact link, and it'll send me an email. And I'd love to hear from you. Also, you can reach me on Instagram or Twitter. My handle is Derek E. Day. That's DERRICKEDAY. You can also reach me on Facebook via Derek Day Multimedia. That's my Facebook page. And last but not least, well, actually, not quite last. Let me say this. Check out my blog on Patheos. It's called Love Minus Religion. And I talk about all kinds of stuff, but one of the things this is a progressive Christianity site, but one of the things that I don't do, I'm not one to quote or cite the Bible anymore. I'm not a Bible literalist, so that's not my position of authority, and so on and so on and so on. So my blog posts come from that perspective, okay? And don't forget, get registered for NAMAD 2020, June 5th through 7th. You really don't want to miss this. There are going to be some really fantastic speakers that are going to share some things that will help you understand that you are not lost. So until next time, namaste, my friends. I see the God and the light in you. And that's all we have. Love you and stay blessed. Peace.